Hi there, I'm Corey, technical project manager and consultant, and I'm here to tell you why you should stop using the combo box entirely in your Power Apps. Let's get into it. So, you're building your Power App, you're probably building filters or something along those lines. Maybe you have a wizard type experience, and you get to the point where the user needs to select from a number of different options. And what do? You go for the default combo box. It makes sense on paper, right? You can select, it's easy to see multiple items you've selected. You can enable search to search through your list. It's a drop down experience so people natively understand how to use it. But then you try to start feeding your data into it and you hit all sorts of hurdles. You try to pass it just your particular column, it doesn't populate. You add your choices function, it's still not working. The internet is littered with people trying to use a combo box, and the data source just isn't accepted because of how restrictive it is in the way it will accept data. Well, I'm here to tell you there's a better way. Stop hitting your head against the wall trying to get your combo box to work, and we're going to do a better alternative. What is the better alternative to the combo box? It's your gallery. You're already using it to display all sorts of data and information. It's time to simply replace the combo box by functionally building your own in a much better and more flexible version. And that may sound like it's a larger lift, but once you get in the habit of doing it a couple of times, or if you get confident enough to build your own component to replace it, you will find it to be infinitely more useful, certainly more user friendly, and just a much better experience from trying to stand things up quickly because it will accept your data source natively, including objects and just passing it a column. So let's talk about it. You have your gallery, you add a text input, and you style the text input to act as your search. Now, hopefully, this will not be familiar to plenty of you. You're going to populate your gallery items with your filter function. So we're passing it our data source just like normal. We're going to use our start with function. Why are we using start with? Why aren't we using search or using the in operator? Because they're not delegatable. And delegation is important, folks. If you, especially if you have a large data set, especially if you have a lot of values you're going to be passing into it, delegation needs to be in the front of your mind the entire time you're building it. If these kind of functions are important to you and you need to use search or you need to use the in operator and you have a large data set that is over 2000 records or will be over 2000 records one day, consider instead part passing off the search functionality into a Power Automate flow and having the flow return to you a collection of records that match. And then you will not have to come back later when you get IT tickets that say that we're missing records because your Power App doesn't have the scope to pull in enough records to do it. This is why we show our starts with. This is why I recommend this is what you start with when building the application because this functionality will not break as it scales. So we're taking our text input text into our starts with function. We're matching it up with our column name. Keep in mind, what you can do is you can pair starts with an or function, and you can check. You could use a starts with and an ends with. You can do starts with against multiple columns. You can push this a little bit and still have a delegatable function that is going to work across data sets that are significantly larger. But once you start getting a little more complicated than this, know that there is a threshold where it becomes appropriate to pass this over to a Power Automate flow and have the flow do the heavy lifting of searching your data set and then returning to you a JSON string collection that you'll parse inside the app. Now, after you do all of your filter function, remember you're going to have to either pass it through a choices function or a distinct function. Now, I have terrible luck with my choices function. It never seems to work for me when I'm working with my actual use case. But distinct, I have much more reliable results with. Keep in mind that these create a single column table that you can then pass into your gallery very easily. and populate your individual gallery controls using this item dot result. I've also had it work for me in the past where it's this item dot value, depending on the particular way you're passing through these features and the particular control you're using. Now, we have our gallery and our search box. We've created big pieces of the functionality of the control. How does it work into your larger UI design, right? The one of the nice things about the combo box is that it by default takes up very little space because of the way it displays things. And of course, you could take the gallery and control you just built and just throw it on the front page of your app. Maybe you have enough space to do that. Maybe the gallery can be styled small enough that this still works for your purposes. But if you are in a situation where you are searching through and or having them select from more than three, I don't think combo box or this approach either way is the right way to go about it. And what I'm going to actually recommend is to use a button and take all of that additional UI elements to another page, especially when you're building on the default mobile first design with that tall rectangle. It is in your best interest to space your controls out across screens for better performance, and your users are going to appreciate it from an experience. Let's talk about executing this. This button is going to have us navigate to another screen where that screen now contains what is your functional filter gallery with your search and your options for selecting. In the buttons that you either have overlaid as transparent over top or you are styling with the content themselves. We are going to program into the onSelect property a very simple function setting a global variable. I'm using filter var for my name, and we're just going to grab this item. Because we've passed this through a choices or a distinct function, remember that we are passing in functionally just a string response. It is not a full object. Depending on the way you executed on this and you pass it into other functions or populate other things, you still might have to do dot control at the end of this variable. You can experiment this as you want. You may want to pivot on this and do this item dot value or this item dot result to pass a string directly in here. I leave this up to the developer to make the individual choices there. But as you can see, very, very easy to grab this, pass it into a variable, a global variable that can be used on your other screens and for other purposes across your application. Now, if you want them to be able to select more than one item, easy pivot. We're changing to a collection using the collect function. And now you can select from multiple items in your gallery and you've added them to a collection which you can check against in any other filter function or evaluate through as you please. Keep in mind, you need to do appropriate UI styling so people know what you've selected. I like this is a great place to use that in operator, checking, this item in filter call, then, color 1, 2, 3, otherwise color 4, 5, 6. And you can make a easily visible section like that. Also keep in mind, you have to give people a way to remove these. I like to do this particular design where when you click, it does a check. Hey, are you in this filter collection? If it's already here, we're going to remove it. Otherwise, we're going to add it. And then, depending on how you want to function on it, you can navigate back to that original screen. And then here is the real kicker. Use that button, that section that you already had them navigating away, as the place to hold the filter function for them to see within the context of the next screen. Now, you haven't taken up more real estate on your original design, but you have much more space to play with regarding the gallery, other additional context you want to provide, styling ability, the ways that it will accept the data source compared to the original option you had of the combo box. I think it's a no-brainer in that it just skip the combo box entirely and use your gallery, custom build it yourself. Now, if you like this kind of content, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn where I post more videos of this kind, and I'll see you guys next time.